Welcome to a football show Monday edition here on the 440 Sports Network. His name is Zach Lyons. My name is Braden Gall. We are brought to you by two locally owned businesses here in Nashville. Sinkers, of course, Sinkers Beverages, location in East Nashville. They also have Bluegrass up in Hendersonville and the Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Make sure you sign up at Sinkers. When you go in there, make sure you sign up for the in-crowd. Lots of cool stuff we're going to tell you about. What that offers you if you sign up in just a little bit. All right, so this is the time of year, Zach, where there are just like listicles everywhere on the internet, especially in college football for college football fans. And I think there needs to be sort of like a PSA, a bit of a like, here's how you're supposed to do rankings. And I don't think people understand this in college football. So we're going to address that a little bit.
So you're gonna Braden explain SEC rankings.
Yep. Well, to the entire internet, actually.
Yeah.
I think what happens is people get too caught up in, it's not that big of a deal. I just think people get too caught up in recency bias when it comes to college football rankings. And we're going to
I tried to tell people last year about UT and nobody wanted to listen.
Well, and we've got Texas and Oklahoma that are about to join. And so you're going to see rankings everywhere on the internet this time of year, you know, best quarterbacks, best programs, best jobs. So I thought, let's have a conversation about what makes a program a great program in college football. I don't think that's Braden's planning as much as it is. Maybe
well, you put it as how to properly rank the SEC programs, which is the very definition of Braden's planning.
Well, it's because I know more about college football than everybody else.
All right, Braden's planning.
And listen, if I'd like to be salary cap splained or
that's educational
escrow account splained, and then I'll just check out stackingtheinbox.com where I'll be educated. Not explained to, educated.
I feel that the people that are writing now for Sports Illustrated, they put out an article today saying that the Titans are in salary cap trouble, and they threw out a bunch of numbers that were all completely wrong and all misinformed. So good job firing Glennon and Beauclair and hiring these guys.
Ooh, I like that. There were a couple of actual transactions for you Titans fans that I know Zach is very aroused by. In fact, Mike Herndon on Football and Other Efforts, a show you should listen to every single week. I believe one of the new signings, I think the phrase was possibly orgasmic from Mike Herndon, I believe was the phrase. So we'll explain those.
I'm just turned on by the thought that Jeff Swaim is no longer going to be on this team.
No, the Football and Other Efforts was it was very erotic when they were discussing this one addition to the team. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Sportsmanship, of course, is in the news, and all the pearl clutching is happening, and we'll get to
the people who have coined the term pearl clutchers and brought it popular. I feel like we'll get into it, but if Clay Travis and Dave Portnoy are on the same side of a subject, I want to be as far away from that side of the subject as possible.
Well, I believe one of those two spent the entire last month degrading the women's basketball tournament, only to turn around and get clicks off of it. So that's some of the stuff that's coming on the show today. We're going to start with the big trade rumors because there are now rumors swirling about basically every team in the NFL, but again about the Titans trading up. I believe Daniel Jeremiah, of course, so we'll get into that here momentarily. I do want you at some point throughout this conversation, because there was a rumor about Trey Lance last week. I know you guys talked about it on F Words being a possibility as a trade partner for the Titans.
Don't talk about that because PK will come and be Titans Twitter sheriff in your mentions.
Well, he does play that role. He's
It's the worst role that any grown man can play, and and he fits the bill perfectly because it's utterly ridiculous.
He does enjoy it.
Listen to the Paul Karski podcast, part of the 440
Network. I do want. Here's what I want.
Opportunity hater. That's why I love trash talking.
Well, you'll talk shit right to my face on the show, so I don't, whatever.
Sure.
I think what's interesting, and it's not even just Titans rumors. Like, I want to know, because there's so many bullet points here, and we can get right into it, by the way. Please jump into the comments if you have any questions or comments or want to chime in about any of these topics. Please come on with us.
I to talk about this subject for a third time, by the way.
Yeah, we started this trade to the number 3 like weeks ago on the show.
And I brought up what everybody's writing about and talking about today. I brought up 5 fucking days ago, March 29th. I brought this up. This is not new news. The local media needs to fucking catch up to Football and Other F Words, and they should turn on notifications. I've been trying to get you to turn on notifications. You should turn on notifications, because then you wouldn't all be fucking late Larrys to the conversation. God,
I would also point out that a football show was right there alongside F words. Both of us
earlier, way
we
earlier.
were like, hey, maybe now's the time to go up to 3 if you're convicted on Richardson. So we'll get into all that. But I also it's not even just Titans rumors, Zach. There's Texans rumors, there's Colts rumors, there's Levis rumors.
They're all rumors that we brought up because what did I say a couple months ago? I said there's a good, and you agreed because of the way that to build a team is that if the Texans aren't that strong, don't have a strong feeling about CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever may be there at number 2, why draft a quarterback? Why force the issue at number 2 just because you need a quarterback? That's especially when you have 2 first-round picks next year.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Well, you also have a pick at 12,
right?
That you could use to move up to 7 or 9 or 11 or take somebody at 12. Like I've seen some mocks with Will Levis out of the first round altogether, which you've been saying for a while. I know. And Richardson, I saw one with Richardson falling to 20, which I think is not going to happen. But I just want to start with just. Let's start this conversation brought to you by Sinkers and the Kingston Group, of course, 2 locally owned sponsors here in Nashville. We'll tell you more about them because there's some cool draft stuff coming from Sinkers. Let's say hypothetically, this is what they want to do, and this is the plan. I want you to sort of give me the pros and cons of doing it before, doing it early, doing it now, waiting till like draft night, waiting till they're on the Colts or the Cardinals are on the clock. What are some of the Because, like, obviously, if you trade today, that gives you a chance to then maybe trade back if you want, hypothetically. I'm not sure why necessarily you'd do that. Yeah. But give me some of the pros and cons to doing it now, to getting yourself into that 3 slot versus waiting until, Arizona's on the clock.
It's interesting because I go back and forth in my head. What's going to cost you more? Is it costing you more to trade now or going to cost you more if you trade night of the draft? It almost seems like I don't know if there's a cost benefit to waiting. I guess I should say, right? I mean, is there a cost benefit to waiting?
Could you conceivably think that Arizona doesn't really love its pick there, which is why they're interested in trading in the first place?
Right. See, they're already interested in it though.
And
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then they're up against they're desperate at that point to trade the pick. So maybe you can get like.
Are they though?
Less.
Like. Are they desperate? But then you got probably let's say that CJ Stroud or Bryce Young that falls to 3. Now you're in a real bind, right? If the Arizona's got it all figured out. Like it's almost, I feel like you're going to have to give up this first and 2 more firsts regardless, because that's what the San Francisco 49ers did to get Trey Lance. So it's like, is it the difference of maybe a 3rd round pick thrown in that? If you wait or don't wait, like, I don't know, because, they did trade in a compensatory 3rd round pick as well, but the Titans don't have that. So it's just a little different for me. I don't know if there's a real true cost benefit. Now, there may be a benefit of waiting for the Tennessee Titans that if they're not sold on all 3 quarterbacks or not sold on all 2 quarterbacks and Will Anderson, then maybe it's better for them in that sense. But I don't think there's a cost benefit.
I think that's kind of what I was going to say is if you trust all 3 and you love all 3 quarterbacks, and that's the reason you're trading up is to go get a quarterback, then make the move. And if you eat the cost now, because then you can always move back if you get cold feet on Anthony Richardson, or we know they like CJ Stroud. Let's say it's Bryce Young that falls, and they don't really love Bryce Young as much as we expected. I mean, that would be stupid. But like if you're on the clock and you don't have the guy you love, then you certainly could move. I'm assuming the Raiders might be interested, or somebody else might be interested, and then maybe you can recoup some stuff because it's in the heat of the moment. I find it interesting that if you believe in a quarterback, and you've said this all along, and I agree with you, to go up and get it. Now, let me ask you this, and I want you to. There's a lot of rumors, and it's sort of like, here's why some of these rumors can come out, and certainly Daniel Jeremiah is well sourced, but he says, like, let's be clear as to why this maybe is happening right now. Let's just float some stuff out there that are just facts, not innuendo or reporting, just facts. They just had a Florida pro day and just met with Anthony Richardson. So that's just a fact. They've met with all 4 quarterbacks now. That's a fact. The Colts are sitting at number 4, and they are a division rival who also could want a quarterback. That is a fact. Do they really believe that could Bryce Young or CJ Stroud be there? And trading down, of course, is a value. There's just value in the situation right now. So I want to know and Vegas is interested in trading up potentially too.
Vegas is pretty convinced. I mean, it has gone pretty crazy about the Titans and how it's shifted. And it's like Titans are now like 3-1 to draft a quarterback with their first pick, and now their number one quarterback choice would possibly be Anthony Richardson. And that all happened from like Monday to Friday, and I know that it's pretty much stayed the same since then. So it's like
they became the number 2 pick on the board to draft Anthony Richardson. Yeah. And my buddy texted me a screenshot this morning, like of his betting app, and he was like, "Whoa, look at this!" And I'm like, "That comes from a rumor that gets floated into the ether by Daniel Jeremiah. It gets floated, and therefore Vegas has to react to people seeing value, even if there's no truth to what's going to happen." So it's the same thing with Lamar Jackson. The same thing happened with Lamar Jackson and sort of the betting odds. So how true do you think? Here's what I want you to do. On a scale of 1 Jim Wyatt to 5 Jim Wyatts, with 5 Jim Wyatts being the most accurate.
Okay.
5 Jim Wyatts is the most believable number of Jim Wyatts you can have. I want to know how realistic this rumor is about the Titans going up to number 3 to draft a quarterback on a scale of 1 to 5 Jim Wyatts.
Okay. You want to know how real is the actual rumor that they want to trade up or have inquired about trading up?
Yep.
Oh, it's a 5.
Elliot says 3.6 Jim Wyatts.
It's a 5. It's 5 Jim Wyatts.
5 Jim Wyatts.
Yeah, we already know they tried to trade up and we're in talks for the number 1 overall pick. So this is just as believable.
Okay. How many Jim Wyatts for the Houston Texans are going to pass on a quarterback at number 2? How believable
I think
is
it's
that
3
rumor?
Jim Wyatt believable. I think there is a scenario where a team like the Texans, who have so many holes to fill on their roster, which they've done an admirable job, but they still got a lot. I mean, they still got to get wide receivers with a plural. They got to get many wide receivers. They have all kinds of holes on the defense. They have holes on the offensive line, and they have depth issues. I could see a scenario where the Texans, I think there's a possibility the Texans could trade out of 2, not with the Titans or the Colts, but like with someone like the Raiders. But when you have 2 first-round picks next year, and if you're on your big board, if you think Drake May or any of the other quarterback, Caleb Williams, are better than Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Anthony Richardson, who all is ever going to be at number 2, then there's no sense in forcing one of those quarterbacks onto your team. Because if you believe that, you use those 2 first-round picks next year in the same draft to move up to get one of those guys in either the first or the second overall spot, if you're not already there.
Which I guess would hinge on your evaluation of Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, etc. Tim says, why are we operating like the Texans will do anything reasonable? And it's weird because you could argue that it is irrational to do both. Like you could say, oh, no, you've got a 12th this year and 2 firsts next year. It's irrational to not take Will Anderson, the most NFL game ready, best overall.
Look at how San Francisco has built their first round picks. Look how they built their team in San Francisco. It was all for like the defensive line. It was like defensive lineman, edge rusher, defensive lineman. And guess who has been in that system and who has coached the defense? DeMeco Ryans. I could totally see them taking Will Anderson. I mean, I could see it as plain as day.
It's funny. I think this is 4 Jim Wyatts. I believe
so you're a little bit more believable.
I'm more believable. I think it's more believable than the Titans trading to 3. I think that the fact that they are interested in 3 is 100% 5 Jim Wyatts. The fact that it is likely to happen, I feel like it is very unlikely to happen because of the cost associated with going up to get the number 3 pick. So while I think the rumor is very believable, I think it is almost. It just seems like it's a very low probability of taking place. Whereas I could see the Texans clearly passing on a quarterback and then using either 12th this year to move up and get their guy or using the 2 next year to get their guy. Will Anderson could be the cleanest, as they say, prospect on their board.
And there's a scenario where the Texans are like, I don't know, we'll just draft maybe we'll trade back and we'll draft Hendon Hooker. Maybe we'll draft Hendon Hooker at 12. I mean, that is also a possibility out there, that people aren't. I think some people are kind of flirting with the idea, but not flirting with it in the sense that it could be the Texans could be that team. Instead, they're thinking like, oh, well, it's Minnesota or Seattle could be that team. I think there's a good likelihood that the Texans could be that team.
So if we do kind of believe it, 3 to 4-ish Jim Wyatts on the Texans passing on a quarterback, shouldn't that make us more interested in the Titans moving up to 3? Because then there's a higher probability that they get an even better player that they want.
Yeah, that's why I kind of think you need to go ahead and just get it out of the way and do it if that's what you want to do. I don't think that you wait, because if you wait, then you're going to have to pay more. I mean, I just feel like if what we believe is true, right? Okay, in the scenario that the Texans pass on a quarterback and they take Will Anderson, the most complete player in the draft, they take Will Anderson. Then you got one of CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. You may have both there. Like, what if the Panthers end up taking Anthony Richardson? That is a distinct possibility. The Arizona Cardinals are in no better spot than what they are right then and there. It is. I think that's why it's likely better to go ahead and do it now if they are for sure going to do it.
Okay, you can convince me. I tend to agree, because also having the pick now allows you to shop it if you want to as well.
Yes.
So like, I just in the case of emergency, I kind of am convinced that I think doing it now is the better move, if that's what you've done and you've evaluated that.
The one bad thing about doing it now is that if the Texans indeed do not want a quarterback, someone could trade up in front of you. Ooh. You just created a market for that number 2 pick with the Houston Texans.
You have to like all 3 in front of you. You have to like all 3.
You have to like all 3.
Which I think we've said now for like 4 or 5 shows, weeks before the rest of the world. All right, here's one, and I know you guys mentioned it on and talked about it on F1.
I like that, though, that all these local people, by the way, they're all like, well, it's either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. Well, no, there's the distinct third possibility that it is Bryce Young or CJ Stroud there. I think everybody's now stuck in a mindset that it's CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, 1 and 2. Doesn't matter what order they're in. They're both going 1 or 2.
What have I been saying? I think Anthony Richardson is going number 1.
Yeah, I don't think that's a distinct. I do not think you could count that and trust the smoke coming out about CJ Stroud going number 1 overall. In fact, I would almost bet against it.
Well,
that it's CJ Stroud.
It was all Malik Willis to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All Malik Willis, all Malik Willis, all Malik Willis, and then they took Cody Pickett. So I think it's Richardson number 1. I've been saying that, and I think, to me, if it's even like close that Richardson could go number 1, then that makes even more sense for the Titans to go up to number 3. And as Sobro Stoney Keeley says, to draft Tyler Scott at number 3. All right, so
very interested to see Lance Zierlein's mock draft that's coming out today. He kind of like pumped it up yesterday, saying, I've heard some stuff, and this is my mock draft where I think this is what the teams want to do. Ooh. And I keep refreshing, waiting on this mock draft.
Okay, so real quickly, here's another rumor. Obviously, you guys talked about it on F Words. Go check out the entire conversation about a potential move to get Trey Lance, which sounded, when you two talked about it, it's too good to be true. You get rid of Malik Willis, you don't have to give up draft capital, and you get Trey Lance. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that it's possible.
You just have to give up some spots,
right? So from a 1 Jim Wyatt to 5 Jim Wyatts, how real is a possibility that the Titans end up with Trey Lance as their quarterback?
I think it's a 2, just because I think what this guy is doing, and what is failed to be comprehended by people that are supposed to be able to read, is that he's taken the comments of what people said at the ownership meeting and saying, here's a possible trade scenario. And everybody's like, well, why would you trade for Malik? And he's like, it's not about Malik. It's about going from a round 3 pick to a round 2 pick. Yeah. That's what it's about. Yeah. And it's basically them saying that they're not going to trade. They're going to start Brock Purdy. They've signed Sam Darnold so they can have some flexibility in getting rid of Trey Lance if they want to. It's just he was basically taking 2 plausible scenarios and the relationships and tying it together. But I still say it's like 2 Jim Wyatts.
2 Jim Wyatts. Okay, I like that. I think it would be a great move for the Titans to have a pick at 11 and to add a bunch of players and to get a young, far more talented player than Malik Willis to try to groom as your guy. I think that would be great. Jason says Richardson is going number 2, as in second round. I'll put some action down on that, Jason. And we'll see.
Do not bet money on that, Jason. You will lose money.
Don't. I'm telling you, they love Anthony Richardson. Here's the other thing that I love about all of this stuff we're talking about. Rand Carthon went to Florida. Rand Carthon worked with D'Amico Ryans. Rand Carthon worked and helped draft Trey Lance. It's all tied together through all these weird, bizarre, history. Like people are related in some way, shape, or form, and have worked together and overlap and have stories. And I love it. Okay,
to make moves in circles that you're most comfortable navigating in.
Yeah. So you don't think there's a text to D'Amico like, "Hey, y'all really gonna take a QB at 2?"
Could be.
I wouldn't. I mean, why would you not?
Don't forget, Vrabel and Casario have some little history too.
Yeah. All right, here's another one. And by the way, go to Sinkers, of course. Sign up for the in crowd when you shop for liquor at Sinkers in East Nashville. Bluegrass, of course, up in Hendersonville as well. You'll have access to VIP allocations. That we got a draft party coming up on the 27th for the first round. We're going to put some really cool stuff together for you guys. It's going to all benefit our kids' charity. So courtesy of Sinkers there, we've got a limited supply amount of tickets that are going to be available coming up later on this week. We're going to sell those. All the money, again, going to charity. We're not trying to make a penny on any of you guys. We just want to have a really fun night. Sinkers wants to help provide that for you guys. Sign up for the in-crowd. Okay. You also get, we
got a little bit of news. So about some clarification about the trade up.
Okay. Let's tease that news and finish up with
an hour ago, and I missed it. So I was playing Halo. So
okay. So what was I talking about? Sinkers is great for you guys to shop for booze. That's basically what we're getting at here. The in crowd is what you need to sign up for, and it's all kinds of cool stuff like distillery and brewery tours potentially. There's some barrel pick options that they might take some listeners on a trip with them to make a barrel pick, which is freaking awesome. So make sure you go check that out. Sign up. We'll have a draft party and some tickets available coming up real soon. Also, again, other location, Bluegrass in Hendersonville, Sinkers here in East Nashville. And then, of course, the Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Make sure you talk to them before you make any big decisions about your house. Just remember that name, the Kingston Group. They are a home remodeling firm. They will not do you wrong in an environment right now in Nashville where you cannot trust anybody working on houses. Kingston Group is a name you absolutely can trust. My family uses them. Make sure you remember that name before you make any big decisions. How many Jim Wyatts? 1 to 5 Jim Wyatts, Zach, that the Indianapolis Colts will draft Will Levis, and how many Jim Wyatts 1 to 5 that the Indianapolis Colts won't take a quarterback?
Can you make this round specific?
Okay, very good. With the 4th overall pick, or in the first round, they draft Will Levis. How many Jim Wyatt?
I believe that will be 1 Jim Wyatt. I do not believe it.
All right. The Indianapolis Colts.
I want to believe in 5 Jim Wyatts, if that makes you feel better.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. The Colts do not take a quarterback in the first round. How many Jim Wyatts?
I believe that is 5 Jim Wyatts. I don't think they're sold on any quarterbacks.
Okay. All right. Any other rumors we need to put on the Jim Wyatt scale here?
Okay. No. But here's what Ian Rappaport said on the Pat McAfee show about these specific rumors. And of course, they used the A to Z Sports report and put that tweet up instead of my tweet that had it first. But anyway, he says, I have not heard specifically the Tennessee is trying to move up to number 3 in the draft, but it would make sense. But he goes on to say, according to artist formerly known as Derrick Henry Stiff Arm at TravyBird00, if I'm not mistaken, he elaborates on what Rappaport went on to say. He says, whenever Daniel Jeremiah says something like this, it's for a very good reason, and he's usually right.
Okay. I think I'm thinking about moving up to 3 from Rand Carthon is 5 Jim Wyatts. The possibility of it happening, I'm more like in that 2.5 Jim Wyatt range, if that makes sense. And anyone who's not listened to this entire conversation has no clue what we're talking about. So this is why you tuned in from the beginning.
Yep.
Jim Wyatt is the most trusted source of information here. So 5 Jim Wyatts is very trustworthy. 1 Jim Wyatt, not so much. That's how this works. Okay. Quickly, we'll get to some SEC stuff, and we'll get to some you've got some nuggets here, and we're not going to go into full detail here. There are a couple of signings also that the Titans made that I know you're excited about, but just what from like a 10,000 foot view, new information about salaries and
information I've talked about in Football and Other Efforts. This is completely new information from what I talked about on Football and Other Efforts. I wrote a stackintheinbox.com. And what I wrote there was about when deposits have to be made for the escrow and how it's pushed off a year. This is tied into that, but this is not exactly what I'm talking about today. What I want to talk about is something that Pro Football Talk came out with on April 2nd. And this was the Browns supposedly were required to place $160 million in escrow by Friday, which was March 31st, which is a date that talked about stackintheinbox.com and on Football and Other Efforts latest episode. And Friday for the Deshaun Watson future guarantees. Did they? The specific language of the funding rule invites the question. And here's the specific language. And I have read this funding rule, and for whatever reason, I've glossed over this word. This is a huge thing. Section 9, funding of deferred and guaranteed contracts, a.k.a. the funding rule. The NFL may require that by a prescribed date, each club must deposit into a segregated account the future guaranteed money. May, not shall, not will.
Right.
May. That means that this opens up, first off, if the NFLPA had any fucking smart people running it, and you can, Taylor One can back me up on that one, the few times that we've actually agreed on something about how shitty the NFLPA is. It says May, I'd be pushing that word all over the internet. And in fact, the NFLPA probably didn't even do anything with this information because that's huge. Because what this does is that if they decide, if the Browns are not forced by the NFL to have made them deposit that money into the account by March 31st and let it go on and trickle into next year, which is a year past the deadline that's supposed to be, but they force whatever team signs the Ravens to instantly do it in that scheduled time frame, the normal scheduled time frame, that is some collusion. That opens the door for collusion.
Okay, so what you're saying is there's a deadline for amount of money for fully guaranteed contracts to go into an escrow account.
The NFL may tell a team to do it.
But if they're saying to the Ravens that they have to do it for Lamar Jackson's current or new
or
contract,
any team has to do it for Lamar Jackson,
meaning they're sort of enforcing the May now, right?
Yeah,
instead of not enforcing it. So because I read a bunch of stuff about Lamar over the weekend, and it kind of sometimes it makes my head hurt to think about. Like I don't know if this is collusion. If this particular
collusion particularly against Lamar Jackson, what we have established is that's collusion against fully guaranteed contracts.
Yep.
What this would do, though, is that if you're choosing one player to enforce it on and another player not to enforce it on, that's where the collusion really comes into play, and you leave yourself open. So it's almost like you don't really have to follow the funding rule unless the NFL explicitly tells you. And if I'm the Tennessee Titans, I'm taking advantage of that for Jeffrey Simmons.
Don't you think that's too I feel like that's too complex, and like how do like the national media people get people to understand how like it seems like a very complex issue to get the average fan super fired up and pissed off about to call it
not
collusion.
This particular one. Because first off, they already want to call it collusion, Braden, and they're already in the collusion camp. The majority of the NFL fans just think that it's because he's Lamar Jackson and he's black, so they already think that they're colluding against Lamar Jackson when they're colluding against really technically all players at fully guaranteed contracts.
Well, and my issue is
this would become the instance of if they're not going to make the Browns do it for Deshaun Watson, they make whatever team do it for Lamar Jackson. Why? They should have to come out and explain.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you're doing that, or if ownership is saying that they have to, which is not the true sense of the word, and maybe the NFL is telling the owners you'll have to, then that opens the door. That opens you up to collusion, for real collusion, by the NFL.
And maybe to me, like I understand that as being collusion towards a particular player or situation. I agree with you that probably you're right. Probably most people already think that what's wrong with Lamar Jackson? I'm like, first of all, I think Deshaun Watson is at their best. Deshaun Watson is the far better player. And the fact that he got a guaranteed contract after all the bullshit he pulled off off the field, it's hard for me to see the collusion thing, like from a casual fan fan standpoint because, again, the guy with the sexual assaults, who's also black, just got a guaranteed contract.
Yeah, but
whereas
that's where you're giving a little too much faith to the intelligence of the casual fan.
maybe you're right, and maybe to Jimmy Haslam as well. But I think what's interesting is I've seen a lot of like really smart football people that I trust, that I really read and I like, that I enjoy, say, look, this is just straight up collusion against Lamar. And I just am like, no, I just wouldn't give the guy $250 million guaranteed when his legs could disappear in 3 years. Like I just think that's a risk I wouldn't take. I think he's a great player, but like, am I willing to do that? I don't know. And
Yeah,
Jimmy Haslam screwed up the market.
What I am saying is that if the NFL forces the teams to do something differently than they did the other one, then there is something to say. Not just in general. It's this particular fact, this particular word can leave you open for collusion if it's enforced in two different ways against the same position, the same color player, and two wildly different circumstances. If this particular issue, this word, that's all there is to it.
And it is retribution because of the guaranteed nature of Watson's contract. It's not retribution towards Lamar Jackson specifically. It's retribution towards the style of contract.
It could be if they want every player to have an agent and they don't want anybody to represent themselves.
I guess
that's something that's not being talked about. Is that if he gets paid a lot of money and he represents himself, what do you think that's going to start doing to the rest of the NFLPA and the NFL players?
It reminds me of that time when Goodell had like was it the commissioner exempt list, and he just like made up a list and he's like, you're going to go on it, but you're not, and you're going to go on it, but you're not, and you're going to go on it, but just for a little while. And it's just like he can kind of there's no consistency there. So that's what I agree with you. It's interesting that could happen. But I think fans are going to it's just going to come down to like, oh, why do you hate Lamar? And it's not going to be as understood. Like you said, I'm giving them too much credit maybe for being too intelligent. Okay, so if
casual
you want to know,
fans are basically what were tweeting about the NCAA women's college finals yesterday.
Oh, okay. You want to get into
I
that
wouldn't
now?
even know if I'd put casual fan.
Let's quick talk about the tight end position quickly for the Titans. Just let's mention this because I know you and Mike had you guys had your pants off and you were doing the whole show on Friday talking about Trayvon Wesco, a tight end who was essentially a top 10 run blocking tight end and a top 10 pass blocking tight end last year in the NFL, but isn't really used in the passing game because he's a glorified offensive lineman. But it means Jeff Swain is probably gone. And it means he is now packaged with Chig Okonkwo, and now you have 2 of the 3 slots filled. And maybe, in theory, you might not need to draft a tight end, potentially, with the 3 guys you now have, Rader being the other guy. So tell us all why Trayvon Wesco is possibly orgasmic, to quote Mike Herndon.
Because he's the best pass. He was the best option available, and he was probably the 3rd best option when it comes to the Jeff Swain role for the Tennessee Titans. Probably really the best option to replace the Jeff Swain role, and you need that player. Does not matter that he's faster than Jeff Swain, but it doesn't matter that he isn't going to be like going. It's not like he's going to be going crazy catching passes. You weren't ever looking for Travis Kelce. You weren't looking for George Kittle. You're not looking for I don't know, like Rob Gronkowski.
Are you suggesting you can't get a Hall of Famer in the 4th week of free agency?
Yeah. What you were looking for this whole time in those guys you have in Chig. Chig is your pass catching tight end. He is the guy that you need. Would it be nice to have Darnell Washington? Yes. Payne Durham? Yes. Sam Laporta? Yes. Those guys are all still on the table with Trayvon Wesco, but you need a guy that comes in, is a nasty blocker, young, cheap, and he's not Jeff Swain. That's all that matters to me, is that he's not Jeff Swain.
The artist formerly known as Craig Stevens, who was a very good tight end out of Cal, by the way, who I think wasn't he a Pro Bowler for just being a great blocker? I feel like he got
something close to that. Craig Stevens was awesome.
Yeah, he's a hell of a blocker. One of the best blocking tight ends I've ever seen. So Trayvon Wesco is an addition to the Titans offense that fills a need that's not very expensive, and it does give them a little bit more flexibility. Much like everything else they've done this offseason, it gives them a little bit of flexibility in terms of they are not now forced to try to maybe go get a tight end in the draft early. And maybe they can wait on somebody in that that third, fourth, fifth round range to get their tight end. They're not necessarily as desperate at that position. So again, he was a top 10 run blocking tight end last year, a top 10 pass blocking tight end last year. He is going to play alongside
and he's not Jeff Swain.
And he's not, which is a big one for Zach.
It's massive. I'm just so happy that he's not going to be here. I wish they could have done that with the Nick Westbrook-Ikhine role, but it is what it is.
They did bring back Corey Levin, of course, who gives them a backstop for Aaron Brewer at center.
Aaron Brewer guard. And T.R. Tarp better be signing those little tenders.
So the key there is they're offered the money. They've got to sign it. If they don't sign it, what happens, Zach?
The Titans can rescind it at any point. I mean, like they could just take it away from him and say, "Good luck now. You're gonna have to wait till after the draft to have any kind of money, and your market's probably gonna be dried up after that. We'll see you on the flip side. Peace out."
And that's the old let Nick Westbrook-Ikhine hit the market.
If I were the Titans, I would have already rescinded Aaron Brewer's.
They must
tag.
love him. They must love him.
I would have already rescinded it if I got Corey Levin back on cheap.
You want to talk about sportsmanship here for a second?
We
you want to talk about this? All right, let's talk about some sportsmanship here. So congratulations, by the way, to the LSU Lady Tigers who won the national championship. Congratulations to Caitlin Clark, one of the best players of our generation who beat South Carolina women's basketball. This is all women's basketball, not the men's basketball tournament in which the SEC pooped on itself. But the women's basketball tournament, which had the highest TV ratings of all time in the history of the event, because Caitlin Clark for Iowa beat South Carolina. Then they go up against LSU with Kim Mulkey, who is got a lot of Coach K vibes because she gets away with whatever she wants on the court, but also a lot of just like Dolly Parton vibes too, like just a rock star. But of course, the news is not Kim Mulkey and LSU winning a championship, how great the ratings were, how interested America was in women's sport. That's not the story. The story is a hand gesture or two by Angel Reese, who is one of the smartest and savviest NIL college athletes I have ever seen. We'll explain in a minute. Bayou Barbie is her nickname. And she did a little shit talking at the end of the game without even opening her mouth. And Twitter, of course, lost its ever-loving mind. All the pearl clutchers, all the old white men are screaming down their people
white
on
men,
Twitter.
White women.
White women.
White kids.
Just old
trend.
people. Just like I guess you need to see the video. We're not going to play it. It's not that big a deal. In fact, I think there's a video of Angel Reese, who plays for LSU, and Caitlin Clark, like doing like a joint, like fooling around before the Final Four with like some of the things that they do on the court that are personality driven. We'll get to like how this. What do we expect out of our athletes? Like I'm a father of 2 daughters, and I think there can be some taunting that is inappropriate. This wasn't that. And I would call Bayou Barbie a role model and Caitlin Clark a role model for my daughters. I have no problem with what happened at the end of the game. If you're going to win the national championship by beating the best player of our generation, talk a little shit. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Now, listen, before I get into this conversation, because I know there are people that have been in my mentions, have been on Twitter. Listen, if you are against all taunting and you're a fuddy-duddy, and it doesn't matter. You hate celebrations. You hate finger wags. You hate the little tiny small thing that people do now. Like, you're way down here. You're small.
The bat flip. Bat flip in baseball.
Bat flip in baseball. You know, when Traylon Burks got up and, shoved his hand down in Jair Alexander's face and did that. Listen, if you hate all of it equally, then what I'm about to say does not pertain to you. You're just a boring old fuddy-duddy.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, you're just boring, okay? Grow up. Anyway, have some fun. You may have not even played any sports. Maybe that's your problem.
So what you're saying is consistency you're fine with. If you're just a boring old person who's consistently boring and old,
you can be boring and young. Listen, there are boring and young people too. That there are people in their 30s, people in their 20s who are boring as well. It's just not your generation. It's us younger people too.
Whoa! Wait a second.
So, but if this particular instance got on your nerves and you hated it, then you are no better than the Tennessee woman Rosemary Plorin of Nashville, Tennessee, who wrote into the Charlotte Observer, who everybody constantly makes fun of because she's upset that Cam Newton danced in the end zone and did his taunt that he always does because the Tennessee Titans sucked and couldn't stop him. So you are that person. And I think that people are using code words like classless and classy. Obviously, code words. I had someone in my mentions call her a trashy twit. And there was something else.
That trashy twit. That trashy twit is a wicked smart marketer who's making a lot of money as a college student.
And like, oh, do you think she's gonna sell put butts in seats with that kind of attitude? That's not her fucking job anyway. Her fucking job is to go out there and win championships and make money for herself. Her job is not to make sure that, Billy Bob and his three ex-wives and 5 kids from each ex-wife are all coming to the game down in Louisiana. That's not her job. Her job. Go ahead.
It is her job.
I knew I should have asked if I could get through this without interruption.
Sorry, my bad. I will say it is her job in the professional ranks to put butts in seats. The difference is it's not the butts that are complaining. It's the butts that enjoy that shit. It's the people that like watching people have fun. It's the people that enjoy personality. Heaven forbid somebody have some personality while they are playing a sport that is a fucking game. I
am a trash talker through and through. If you do not like this, but you enjoy Michael Jordan, guess what? You're a hypocrite. If you don't like this, and Larry Bird, generational trash talker Larry Bird. There is an article written about Larry Bird's on Athletic.com, specifically about that. The 30 for 30, ESPN's 30 for 30 with Michael Jordan that everybody watched and everybody enjoyed. He was still trash talking people in his however old he is in his right there, and you enjoyed it. If you've ever liked or retweeted the picture or video of Taylor Lewan going up and seeking out Josh Norman way after the game is over to do the arrow taunt after they have won, and you liked or retweeted or watched or laughed at that tweet, and you hate this, you're a fucking hypocrite. And you got some issues that you need to work through because this runs deeper than this. Because let me tell you something. If you think that, you should act like you've been there before. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Taylor Lewan should all have acted like they've been there before too. If you think that all those guys should have never talked trash, this is not for you. If you're a fucking hypocrite, this is for you. If you are a Taylor Lewan supporter through and through, if you're one of his little bus mouse guys or whatever they call them, like bus rats, if you're a bus rat and you love bussing with the boys and you love everything about Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, Taylor Lewan built his brand on being a bad boy on the field to talk trash to refs, that talk trash to other players, that went out of his way to talk trash constantly. He still does that. Give me a fucking break. And Keith Olbermann, I've lost all respect for Keith Olbermann.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one.
Some of this stuff, I'm sorry. And this does not pertain to everybody that is against against Angel Reese and what she did. Yeah. It's some racism, sexism blatantly out there, and I'm sick of it. And I don't care who unfollows me. Unfollow me. Same thing with I'm not here for your entertainment. If you are offended by what I am saying or you disagree, but you cannot support NFL football like Taylor Lewan has done and be happy with it and retweet and like everything he does and turn around and shit on Angel Reese, which is just fucking ridiculous.
So one of my favorite videos,
all fucking tournament.
That's what I was gonna say. One of my favorite parts is that they were showing the national championship recap, and like Angel's talking about how like I felt disrespected, so I got in her face a little bit. But then they flashed to Friday's game where Iowa, Caitlin Clark has an extraordinary game against undefeated South Carolina, and South Carolina, one of the post players has the ball like above the arc, and Caitlin Clark just goes like, nah. Like, I'm not even gonna. She's like, I'm not even gonna check you because you're not gonna shoot it, and that's like trash talking in the middle of a play. Like that's Larry Bird, that's Michael Jordan, that's what that is. What about like NFL celebrations were allowed recently for turnovers and touchdowns? That's just people having fun celebrating accomplishment on the field. Now, I do think, and I agree with you, we did not talk about what we were going to say.
Hey, listen,
about,
after a sack, Jeffrey Simmons can't do his flexing anymore. Oh, man. Hey, don't forget when the Tennessee, everybody loved it when the Tennessee Titans were on the Ravens logo doing their trash talking before the game even fucking started. And Kevin Byard went on the Dallas Star. Oh, everybody loved that.
No, and it's funny you said what you said, because my entire spiel on this was going to be consistency. If you are a person who doesn't like bat flips, who doesn't like NFL celebrations after touchdowns, who doesn't like anything at all like that, like Steph Curry does it all the time with the little shimmy, and if you don't like any of that stuff because you're just sort of like a lowercase c conservative, you're not listening to this show because you probably don't like the word fuck, like that's fine. It's okay to just for us all to have different standards of what we want to enjoy and be about, but apply it consistently across all things. And that was going to be my take on all of this, which is basically what you're saying. And so to me, for example, like, again, I think if a safety like when Treylon Burks got hit in the end zone by the Eagles, if the Eagle player is standing over an unconscious player, like looking down, talking shit to him, I might be willing to say, like, I don't know about that moment is the right moment to celebrate somebody being injured.
And maybe you don't. That's never cool. In my opinion.
Like,
as a competitor,
who was the shit? I'm drawing a blank on who was celebrating the sack after the fact on the sideline when the quarterback got injured this year. Why am I drawing a total blank on both players? I can't remember. Somebody was on the sideline basically, still celebrating after the quarterback was laying on the field. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, there's a certain level of, like, if a player's injured, okay, let's draw a line there. But like in college football, if you're a Gator fan and you do the Gator chomp, that's okay, right? You can do that.
Hi, Tim Tebow did it like every 3 seconds.
If you're a Texas Longhorn fan, you're going horns up. Like college teams have all kinds of gestures, the tomahawk chop, right? Like there's a million gestures. But if the other team does it, then it's taunting. What are we doing here? Like I don't understand the right. Other than injuries, I don't understand taking the personality out of sports. I just never have understood it.
Sports just aren't for people. And listen, the majority of, I would say about 90% of the people that are against Angel Reese and have jumped in this conversation, either mainstream or not, didn't fucking watch one bit of the game. Didn't watch the tournament at all.
Right.
Have never watched. And listen, I only know that Caitlin Clark was doing stuff because it was all over Twitter and everybody was talking about it. So specifically why I chose to watch this game was because of this Caitlin Clark phenomena. And if it wasn't for the trash talking, if it was just Caitlin Clark putting up 30 points a game, I wouldn't have watched this game. I came for the trash talking specifically. So for those people who say this will not generate ratings, if Caitlin Clark and LSU get to the tournament again next year, guess what? It's going to be awesome. And Angel Reese is just a fucking sophomore, by the way.
Dude,
like she's not like some 50-year-old woman.
It was Kayvon Thibodeau was the player who was still he celebrated on the field in the moment. I give him a pass for that because he doesn't know maybe that the quarterback's hurt. But once you go to the sideline and you've still seen like the medical team rush out there to take care of the quarterback, that's when you kind of need to maybe slow down and just be concerned about the situation. But I agree with you. The story today should not be about right and wrong on taunting, or like the story should be that this was the most successful women's basketball tournament in the history of the sport and that more people watched it than ever before, and that the interest in women's sports in this country is skyrocketing. That is the real story. That is the actual piece of news coming out of this. Like we can debate Iowa got some calls and Kim Mulkey's outfits are weird. Like we can have, those are like normal sports debates. But
again, another reason to tune in is the personality of Mulkey, who's dressing like Macho Man over there every new robe and new jackets and all this kind of stuff.
And if she's on your team, you love her, and if she's not on your team, you don't like her. Like there's some villain there, which is great. That's a great part of sports. Again, Angel Reese also one of the most proficient NIL athletes in any sport. She's the highest paid female, I believe, in all of basketball. She has more endorsement deals as a college athlete than almost all. I think she's got 17 NIL deals. which makes her an extraordinary business person on top of being a great basketball player. And so absolutely that person is a role model for my daughters. I don't
who's
know.
not a
I
role
don't know what we're
model?
doing.
Dave Portnoy. Calling a sophomore lady, a girl who's probably like 19 if you're a sophomore in college, a classless piece of shit. If you are a supporter of Barstool and everything they do, you're Stoolie, I don't want you to listen to my stuff. I'm sorry. I just this.
Well, but he has such a positive track record, upstanding track record with treatment of women. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's quickly change the subject then and end it on a more interesting and thoughtful note. Go to Sinkers, of course. Go to the Kingston Group. We do appreciate it. Let people have fun playing sports. Okay, just let young people have fun.
I would almost say you should let people have fun with their rankings.
God, you even put it in the title, didn't you? You even put it in the title. Sinkers Beverages, of course. Wonderful place to go get some drinks. Sign up for the in-crowd. They'll give you VIP access to allocations, all kinds of special events. We got some tickets for the draft party coming up, so make sure you go sign up there. Really beautiful, spacious store. Bluegrass in Hendersonville, Sinkers in East Nashville. Those are your two liquor stores. And by the way, Uber Eats. Search Sinkers. Have the booze delivered directly to your house, Zach.
They drive so you can drink.
There you go. So there you go. Sinkers on the apps there. Just search for Sinkers, and they'll have the booze delivered right to your house. Kingston Group, of course, buildkg.com as well. So this is the time of year where you get all kinds of rankings out there, like, oh, who's the best program in the country? Who's the best coach? What's the best job? It's all kinds of rankings. It's what we do in college football around this time of year. And I think people kind of sometimes miss the boat on the rankings. Now, some of it's designed to get clicks and to get traffic, and we know that, right? It's to get people outraged. They've got Texas A&M as the 13th best job in the SEC. That's designed to get clicks. That's not a real ranking. So what I think is important here, Zach, is to define what makes a job or a program great. That'd be a pretty easy thing to do, I think, at the start of this.
Okay, so what is give me your top 5 criteria of what is important in order to make an SEC program great?
I'm glad you asked, Zach. It is 2 things that eventually
I need 5.
Eventually it all, I'll get to 5 maybe, but it eventually all lands into 2 buckets. And if you have these 2 things, you have what I call national championship DNA. DNA is something that you cannot change. You can't change it. It can mildly evolve very slowly over time, but you cannot change it. And those 2 things in college football are unlimited resources and access to talent. Those are the 2 things. Are you geographically located?
I really thought one of them was going to be hot dogs.
Well, selling liquor at your stadium could be number 3. But again, that may fall into unlimited resources. Do you have unlimited resources? And there are about 15 to 20 schools in all of college football in every conference that have the best of those 2 things. Access to players, which is geography, 6-hour radius around your campus, and unlimited resources, which is fan support, dollars, boosters, budgets, all that kind of stuff, right? Are you willing to pay your coach $9 million a year? Do you have 100,000 people in the stands? Do you have boosters that are willing to drop off bags for players that want to go to your school? Like all that stuff, right? And those are the 2 things. And there are only, again, 15 to 18 of those programs in America that have those 2 things. And guess what? They've won almost every single national championship since 1992. In fact, I think they've won every single national championship since 1992. And if you're looking at Tennessee, for example, it may not look like they have those 2 things because they've hired a bunch of shitty people to do terrible jobs for like 15 years. But it doesn't change the DNA of Tennessee's program, right? Like they have unlimited resources and access to players. So I don't know if you would vote Georgia 1 in the SEC. If you'd vote Bama 1, I'm okay with both of those. Texas is probably in this conversation when they join the league because they have the best of both of those things. Unlimited resources and access to players. A&M is better than people think because of that. Tennessee's better than people think because of that.
So at what point do results, having those things and shifting them into results, matter in your rankings? Like where in that process does that matter? Because Alabama and Georgia both have done this for now years and years and have results to show for it. Texas has what you say, I agree with. They have great access to players, unlimited resources, but have done shit with it.
National. I mean, they've been to 2 national titles in the last 20 years. So that's. I mean, that's
like,
not.
come up.
It's
Last
not a
20
lot.
years. I mean, do we got to stretch it to 20 years?
Well,
I feel like at some point we have to be a little bit more recent with our analysis, or I guess not analysis, not the right word, but more recent with our rankings and the success by the team.
I think that's true to a point.
I mean, given the Texas State now credit for Vince Young's title, that doesn't seem right anymore. But it's like, okay, you got it, but like that doesn't matter now.
See, and that's where I would disagree. I think you actually have to go long. I think you need like 60 years. Like you need to, well, because you're asking like when does the results matter? And I would say over a very long period of time, you need to have proof of concept. So like if you've won,
but they lost proof of concept, right? I mean, like, don't you lose proof of concept now? So just by the way, what you're saying is that because they won with Vince Young, have never been back since. They still have their proof of concept still good. Even though the results aren't there. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's about, have you won national championships and competed at that level in various eras of rules, right? So like the rules in the 30s were different. The rules in the 60s were different. The rules in the 80s were different. The rules in the 90s were different. And now we've got the championship game era starting in 98 with the internet and all kinds of stuff. Some things have changed, like population trend, for example, right? More people have moved from Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan down to the Sun Belt, which actually hurts the value of Michigan, Notre Dame, and Penn State's program because they don't have as many. Frankly, look at Pennsylvania and the manufacturing jobs that have like left that state. That reduced the amount of talent that was close to Penn State and Pittsburgh, and it's partly why they haven't won a damn thing in 60 years, or since I should say 40 years since the mid 80s. But Texas is not any different in 2005 than they are today in terms of their ability to win. If you hire shitty coaches, you're going to have a shitty football team. Like Tennessee is the exact example of this. Like if you hire Jeremy Pruitt every time and you hire a bad athletic director every time, those things change. What doesn't change is 100,000 people going to Neyland Stadium who are obsessed with football. They have unlimited amounts of dollars to spend on it and a 6-hour radius around Knoxville that is way better than people realize in terms of producing NFL and high-level college football players. Geography never changes and resources never change. No, look, Alabama had their couple bad years, right? Where they hired a couple bad coaches and they were bad for a couple years. They had a guy who got fired at a strip club. You know, they had Mike Shula. They had Mike DeBose. Like they had their little bad chunk. It wasn't as bad as everybody else's, but the key is you're not immune to bad decision-making, but you have to have the DNA underneath to make it count, right? Like when you do get the right guy, can you win? Like USC's got national title DNA. I think Nebraska does not anymore because they don't have the players. There's nobody there within 6 hours of Lincoln, Nebraska. So Oklahoma is going to be a fascinating case study when they join the SEC because they don't have as good a recruiting base as LSU or Auburn or Alabama or even Tennessee or Florida or Georgia or Texas A&M. So where does Oklahoma rank? Are they 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th in the SEC? I think they've got a lot of resources. They have pretty good access to players, but they've been winning a lot of titles in a different league. And when you change leagues, that does change your DNA a little bit to some degree.
But it doesn't affect Texas.
No, I think it does. I just think they're worth $1.1 billion. They're the most valuable franchise in all of college athletics. They have the best state, one of the best 2 or 3 states for talent in America. They do not have alignment the way Alabama and Georgia do. When you don't have alignment, too many cooks in the kitchen can mess up your program real easy. Like that's what Auburn just lives in that state. Yeah. Auburn is just too many cooks in the. This was Tennessee's problem for 15 years. It wasn't the brand. It wasn't the fans. It wasn't the program. It was they had a bad athletic director with hiring bad coaches and a bad chancellor that was not running things appropriately. Now they have Donde Plowman, Danny White, and Josh Heupel. And guess what's happened? They're starting to realize their potential again. I guess the thing is the potential doesn't change over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The potential doesn't, but the results should matter more than potential.
Like I would rank Alabama and Georgia and Texas 1, 2, and 3 in the SEC. I would probably rank LSU. But
they're not really power rankings. You're just ranking. These are really nice places to go to if you're a college student.
No, how about this? Let's call it the Nick Saban test. If I put Nick Saban if I put Nick Saban at all 16 programs in the SEC, like let's say peak Nick Saban, like early young Nick Saban,
will instantly
who wins the fastest? And I think it's Bama, Georgia, Texas are the top 3.
I could get on board with this.
Then I'd probably go LSU and Florida would probably be the next 2.
Yeah.
Then I would go Tennessee, Auburn, Texas A&M. Because Auburn can win national championships with Gene Chizik. So, I mean.
Yeah, but they also had Cam Newton, which was like, that's a little bit different. That's like a once-in-a-lifetime generational kind of player. But I will say this, that in Florida, if Nick Saban had Anthony Richardson in Florida last year, they probably would have been a lot better.
That's valid. I think that's the cutoff is Oklahoma would be in there with LSU and Florida probably. And then it would be Tennessee, Auburn, A&M. And then after that is probably Arkansas and South Carolina. Again, 80,000 strong, lots of money. Their access to players is not as good, but it's close. South Carolina just doesn't have the proof of concept, frankly. Like they have not shown that they can win SEC East divisions. They've won one time. They've had 4 winning 10-win seasons. Arkansas has won national titles. It was just before integration. So,
gotcha.
So I don't know if that counts. Vanderbilt, of course, is last in the SEC, unfortunately, not for lack of any of those 2 things. They just too smart of school. It's too smart of school. I don't know. The other ones are tough to decide. Kentucky, Missouri, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They're all kind of in that next tier down. But I think what's important is when you see programs to not rank last year's football team, because the coach can get fired, the AD could leave. All that stuff is transient. You don't rank it based on the current roster. You rank based on long-term body of work and success and things that are deeply ingrained in your program. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
it's about money and geography. If you've got money and geography and you hire the right people, you'll win. Just ask. Again, Nebraska's dealing with this. Notre Dame's dealing with this. These programs in the North that don't have players, they got lots of money, but they don't have access to players. That's why Brian Kelly went to LSU.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. Okay, so when you see the rankings in the list, just remember, don't overreact to last season or even the last 5 years or 10 years. It needs to be a longer picture. Is that too much splaining, or is that just normal smart stuff?
No, I think that's good.
All right, there you go. On a scale of 1 to 5 Jim Wyatts, how did I do?
I think you did 5 Jim Wyatts.
All right, and now I can leave happy today.
One question for you though. Jalen Carter is not taking any top visits for any teams outside of the top 10. Where are you at on Jalen Carter right now? Because that, to me, I am just done. Like, I do not want Jalen Carter anywhere on this team. I don't care the talent.
So that's like his agent saying, we're not going to visit anybody outside the top 10 is what he's saying. Right? Which means he must be very confident that he's going to go in the top 10.
That's what he said.
I think I saw a Warren Sharp mock draft today that had him at 5 to Seattle. He is a really good football player if he's a really good football player. But how do you know? Yeah. You better have some really good psychological evaluations.
Yeah.
Like you better have, Harrison Ford from Shrinking, or like Tony Soprano's doctor in there. Like, you better have somebody in there talking to him to figure out exactly where his head's at and how much he cares. And you better feel real good about the results you got.
Pretty crazy, pretty dumb on his part, I feel like.
I can't get behind signing him either. But man, what happens when he goes to 13 and he ends up just being a 12-year All-Pro? That paycheck motivates people now, man. You never know. All right. Special thanks to Sinkers and Kingston Group. Substack, of course. Stackingtheinbox.com is the website for all Zach's work there. Football and other F words, all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network. Thank you guys all for chiming in, showing up, and hanging out with us every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. We do appreciate you guys. Rate, review, subscribe. Tell one person about the show. Hey, we got this, ridiculous show that talks about the Titans all the time, twice a week. It's called A Football Show from the 440 Sports Network. Just go tell somebody about it. That's all we ask. For Zach, I'm Braden. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Thanks for hanging out.